So good to see everybody here this morning. We're glad that you're here. Glad that you've chosen to come out this way and be a part of our services this morning. I want to remind you again, 5:30 tonight, we're going to honor our graduates. We have 7 wonderful young people that will be graduating from high school. Big event in their life. These are just kind of, you mark your life by certain things. High school graduation is one of those. And so be praying for these young people as they make this next step in their life, and make your plans to be here to celebrate that time with them. You're going to be pleasantly surprised at the look that we've got in there in the thing. By the way, college age or high school graduates, you're not allowed to go in there till tonight, but it really looks good in there, and they've done a good job, and the food's going to be good. The time we'll share together is good, so we're thankful for that. Eli, where are you? Eli was baptized last week. There he is. Eli, here is your Bible. And we are so thankful. You know, when Eli was baptized last week, he got done, he said, "This is great." And I agree. We're so thankful for Eli and thankful for thank you for your commitment. That is, actually, he was the 11th baptism we've had since the first of the year. So God is blessing us, and we're so thankful for that. Today we're ending our series of lessons on Made for Mission. And we're talking about this series called Made for Mission. Over the past 5 weeks, we've talked about how all Christians have been called by God to join in a mission to reach the world. He has no other plan except for us. We've talked about what we're supposed to say, who we're supposed to say it to, and why we should live our mission to begin with. We've talked about those things, and if you missed those lessons, you can go to our YouTube page on the internet. You can catch up on those lessons. We've got them online. They're all on there. We try to put our lessons on every week. We're also live casting them now on Facebook, but be sure to be thinking about those things. By a show of hands, I want to know how many of you know your grandparents' first name. Raise your hand if you know your grandparents' first name. That's impressive. How many of you know your great-grandparents' names? Raise your hand. That's even more impressive. How many of you know your great-great-grandparents' names? The toilets have it in a book. They wrote about their feud. They're not, their name is in for infamy, not for. But no, but we, you think about that. I got some kind of unfortunate news for every person here. You are more likely only a few decades away from being totally forgotten. Welcome to the Line Area Church of Christ. You are dismissed. No. Yeah. Here's the good news. God's calling on your life is always bigger than your lifetime. What He's calling you for, it's much bigger than your lifetime. Well, just about all of us can't go back 3 or 4 generations in our family tree. That's not the case in your spiritual family. Based on how the Bible reads, I have a suspicion that in heaven you'll be able to study your spiritual family tree forwards and backwards. You'll know the ones that are to come and the ones that have gone. Since God is outside of time, I wonder if we'll be able to see how ultimately we became a Christian. We'll be able to go back and say, this person, this generation here became a Christian, and they taught this person, and this person taught this person, this person taught this person, this person taught this person, and this person taught you. Wouldn't that be fantastic? It may be some obscure person that did nothing else but convert that one person that made it to you. But I have a sneaking suspicion that in heaven we'll know our family tree, that we'll be able to follow and see the ripple of our lifetime, the impact of those not only that have had an impact on us, but the impact that we had on people's spiritual lives in the future if we choose to make that impact. Kind of like Ancestors.com on steroids. We'll be able to look at that. Let me say that if you are, again, brand new to this thing called Christianity and just checking it out, so glad you're here. You need to know that God's got something bigger in your life, and He's inviting you to join Him in an activity, and He's already working. you're here. Today we're going to study a scene from the life of a guy named Peter. He's one of those that, insert foot, open mouth, insert foot kind of thing. He's one of those kind of guys. He's always getting in trouble. He's always speaking before he thinks. He's always having to eat his words. If you've done that before, you're able to relate to Peter. Peter's one that most of us can. And if you've ever made a bonehead mistake, you can relate to Peter. Today we're going to read two back-to-back stories found in the book of Luke. Luke chapter 8, 40 through 42 is the first one. It says here, "Now when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, and they were all expecting him. Then a man named Jairus, a synagogue leader, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come to the house because his only daughter, a girl about 12, was dying. So Jairus meets Jesus and his disciples when they come into town. And in that culture, think about it, he described him as a leader of the synagogue. Now, that would be like the city council member greeting you when you come into Crossville, or the mayor, having the key to the city to greet you when you come into Crossville, Tennessee. In that culture, that's the kind of way it was. If the synagogue leader were to become a follower, it might influence the whole city to become that way. As a matter of fact, one of the things that was kind of neat that Michelle and Gary shared is, they're doing this coffee stuff, and they're actually working with some hill tribe congregations that are out there. And one of the neat things is one of the tribes is the leader of the tribe became a Christian. Now the whole tribe is a Christian, and they buy their coffee from them, and it supplements, because, what they get from Folgers is nothing. They get all the profits that come from this, and it really has helped them and all this, but all because of a leader who became a Christian. The whole town was influenced. Now, I've heard reports about, different guys who've done different things. The guy from Justin Bieber's one that, in the last couple of years became a Christian. So often the church loves to take advantage of celebrities and use their name. Tim Tebow is one. We use his name. People use his name a lot to influence people to use him for an advantage. We use the Duck Dynasty guys. I mean, we try to get their celebrity status to do that. But really, when I think about how most of the people that God used were just ordinary people. God loves doing extraordinary things through ordinary people. So I don't know what Jesus is thinking, but I bet the disciples are not blind to the opportunity when this Jairus comes up, who's the leader of the synagogue. They're thinking, boy, if Jesus gets this right, we could make an impact. This could jump start our ministry here, and we may be able to tell him when we go to Jairus' house, and if we don't need to miss out on this opportunity. But check out what happens next. In Luke chapter 8, 42 through 48, "And Jesus was on his way. The crowd almost crushed him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. 'Who touched me?' Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, 'Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you.' But Jesus said, 'Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me.' Then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how that she had been instantly healed. Then he said to her, 'Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace.'" Now, it's almost comical when you look at this scene here of this woman. Massive crowds are surrounding Jesus, pushing up against Jesus. And Jesus, they're trying to get close to him, and yet he stops in mid-stride and says, "Wait a minute. Somebody's touched me." Now, I picture Peter and the rest of the apostles rolling their eyes going, "Jesus, there's people all around you. Everybody is touching you. What do you mean somebody touched you?" It'd be like a crowd, have you ever been to a concert? You've seen the people at the concert do the crowd surfing at a concert, they get on, and can you imagine someone doing crowd surfing? About halfway through, the guy that's doing the crowd surfing says, "Hey, somebody touched me." Well, it'd be kind of like that, Jesus doing this. There's a lot of things, that were going on during this. But it also makes no sense that Jesus stops on his way when he goes to this. He's fixing to go minister to Jairus in his house. This big opportunity that's there for Jesus. And he stops in the midst of this opportunity. If he could get there in time, if he could do the right thing, man, he could set off his ministry. But he stops right there for a woman who means nothing in society. For someone that everybody else ignored. You know, there's a lot of things that can probably guess about this woman. She's poor. I mean, in one of the other Gospels, it said that she had spent everything that she had on trying to be healed, and it was unsuccessful. She spent all her money on doctor's bills. Everything she had, she tried to be healed. She's had this disease for all these years. She probably was all alone. I mean, we sure don't hear about anybody else that was with her during this time. She also probably been seriously shamed in the city because, you know, the religious leaders in that time, when someone had some kind of malady of any kind, they thought it was a result of sin in someone's lives, that they were getting this because they had done something wrong. Still, with all that baggage, though, she makes a massive risk. Based on the Old Testament law, people in her condition were considered unclean. And every person they touched would become unclean. And so this woman was living with this. People knew about this woman. She had a reputation. And she pushed her way through the crowd to get to Jesus, and she did the most unlikely thing. Can you imagine what people were saying? You know, they were saying, you know, what are you doing here? Go home where you belong. She was shoved to the side, probably given dirty looks when she was doing these things. And yet in all this, this woman is relentless to get to Jesus. And it pays off. Her whole life is changed in just a moment. You have no idea when God wants to use you. I don't know whether you realize that or not. Your greatest impact will probably come at a time when you least expect it. For this woman, she had been suffering with the disease for how long, it says? 12 years. She prayed for God to remove it. Can you imagine how many times she had prayed? For 12 years, she'd been praying for the day, this day to come for over a decade. And if you walked in here and you've been carrying around a prayer request that for what seems to be forever in your life, learn the lesson from this woman here. Don't give up. Don't quit praying. She was tenacious. There's always hope. And he can do more in a moment than we can do in a lifetime. Then I want you to notice the next section, 49 through 56. When Jesus was still speaking, someone come to the house of Jairus, and the synagogue leader. Your daughter is dead, he said. Don't bother to teach her anymore. Can you imagine? Hearing this, Jesus said to Jairus, don't be afraid. Just believe, and she will be healed. When he arrives at the home of Jairus, he did not let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, and James, and the children's father and mother. Meanwhile, all the people were wailing and mourning for her. Stop wailing, Jesus said. She is not dead. She is asleep. They laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But he took her by the hand and said, my child, get up. Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astonished, but he ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened. So they get to Jairus' place. The daughter is what? Already dead. I can picture some of the disciples kind of shyly shaking their heads saying, we shouldn't have stopped. We shouldn't have helped that woman on the way. If we didn't have to stop along the way, I bet he could have healed her and it would have been all right, and man, we would have been sitting good. Jesus grabs a couple of guys and the girl's parents, and he goes in to see this dead girl. He says to them, she's just sleeping. Probably out of pain of the parents, the disciples, and others close. They kind of, the family, but they kind of nervously laughed. They laughed at him. It says that right there. He laughed when Jesus said, oh, she's not dead, she's sleeping. They just said, yeah, right. Jesus ignores their apparent lack of faith, grabs the girl's hand, raises her from the dead. Think about this girl's life. I mean, what a story she now has to share. You know, I was dead. This guy came in, told me to get up. Guess what? I got up. I was dead. Think about it, the parents. Can you imagine if one of your children were in that position and Jesus had come into your house and spoke and she raised from the dead? Can you imagine? The synagogue leader of the area just became a Jesus follower. How old was this girl? Isn't it interesting? 12 years old. How long did the woman suffer from bleeding? 12 years. How cool is it to think that God had been waiting for this amazing day for 12 years to teach this lesson? How many of your prayer requests that you've made to God already, you know that God's already picked a day for that day for it to be answered, and He's waiting on just the right day to answer your prayer? It might not be tomorrow. It might not be the next week. It might not be next year. It might not be in the next 10 years. It may be 12, 14, 20, 40 years. If you look at the Bible, you'll see that 40 years is nothing for God to answer prayer. How many of your prayer requests are like that? That He is going to answer it and eagerly waiting to see the look on your face when He does answer those prayers, if you just keep the faith. Now, I've read these two stories before, but to be honest, I think I missed the most important part. While Jesus is healing the bleeding woman and raising the preteen from the dead, which were huge, I'm not going to underestimate what He's done. I don't think that was the most impacting part of the story. Here it is. You remember when He gave the story, it says when Jesus arrived at the house of Jairus, He didn't let anybody go in except for, remember the people that He said? Peter, James, and John, and the child's father and mother. Why Peter? Why did He ask these guys? I mean, Peter had just questioned Him in public a minute and a half ago about what He was doing and why He was doing it. Shouldn't, by this point, He have learned to stop, talking to Jesus and asking questions about the things Jesus was going to do? Then Jesus brings him along to Jairus' house, and he laughs when Jesus remarks that she's not dead, she's just sleeping. Peter laughs. God's calling on your life to be bigger than your lifetime. He is calling on you to do more. That's not true automatically, but if you join God in His mission, it will be. So, how do I do that? That's kind of been the whole point of this series that we've been talking about when we talk about being made for a mission. This is kind of the whole point there. If you'll get this down, you'll have it. Bring someone with you. As you go live the mission that you've been made for, don't go alone. We've been talking about the fact that we've all been called for a mission. Bring someone alongside you as you go on that mission. This may be the single greatest leadership lesson that we will ever learn from the life of Jesus. If you will look at it, you can make a strong case that Jesus is the greatest leader of all time. True? Amen or oh me? Amen. You can make a strong case that Jesus was the greatest leader that ever lived. Never wrote a book, never held a public office, never went outside the small area of the world that He came from. He only was on the public scene for about 3 years. Died when He was 33 years old. Yet here we are 2,000 years later, and there are over 2 billion people in the world that confess that Jesus is Lord. In hundreds of different languages. The movement He started is growing faster now than probably any other time in history. That's so, if you think about it, that's pretty good leadership. That He was able to do that. Bring someone with you. You know how many times it says that His disciples, that Jesus took His disciples with Him when He went? Me neither, I'll be honest with you. I tried to look it up. I started counting through the Gospels and I lost track because, just about every time He went somewhere, He intentionally took someone else with Him. If you read the Gospels over again, note that. just about every time Jesus done, there were times when he went off to himself to pray and he wanted to be by himself, and I'm sure he went to the bathroom by himself, but outside of that, he always asked, got someone, he took them with him, whatever he was doing. I mean, listen to the last words of Jesus. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. In the Greek, it literally translates, as you go, make disciples. Think about the different application of that command. One is definitely that you are to go through your life intentionally sharing Jesus. As you go through your life, you are to intentionally make this effort to reach out to people around you, to share Jesus with people that you meet, and then disciple them in their faith after you've told them about Jesus. The other application that I've never heard someone say, but it's obvious from watching Jesus' life, as you go and make disciples of all nations, don't just disciple the people that you meet along the way. Bring people along with you that you are already discipling. Bring them with you and disciple them while you go through your day-to-day responsibilities of going through the world. But wouldn't that change everything? Jesus ends with promising that he will be with us always, even into the end of the world, the end of the age. Now, if you've truly put Jesus in the driver's seat of your life, then it's not so much for you to bring him with you, but instead he brings you with him if he's in the driver's seat. Isn't that true? What he did to those disciples over 2,000 years ago, Jesus still wants to do in our lives today. As he disciples us, he invites us to do the same to those people that are around us. We need to be discipling people. And as you do that, as you're discipling them, what do? You bring them along with you as you reach out to other disciples. Now, let me give you some practical examples. Parents, bring your kids with you. 3 words. Saturday night sleepovers. Kyle Eldridge does a fantastic job of this. He strategically lets these kids come over to his house. So you'll notice sometimes there'll be a pack of them over here. And I'm looking at a half pew of them right now. But Kyle does this all the time, and I admire that. Of course, you ought to mention it to the parents beforehand that you're going to, bring the kids to church with you the next morning. But, what you do is, have your kids, invite their friends over on Saturday night and then bring them to church with you. That's awesome. Again, you need to talk to their parents, but, think about that. Your family may be the closest to Jesus that your kids' friends will ever know. So why not do that? We always, when our kids were growing up, kids always want to spend the night at everybody's houses. We always wanted our house to be that house. Invite them to our house. And, show them Jesus while you got them there. Parents, I'm saying bring your children with you and then let your kids bring their friends with them. You see what I'm saying? With friends and family, bring them with you as you try to live out your faith. And then, invite someone to serve with you. Would you like, maybe if you're an usher or a greeter, you can, invite them to kind of do something with you. Maybe, hey, why don't you come go to church with me and invite them to serve alongside of you. I'll tell you what, let me give you an example of what happened one time. We had a young lady, beautiful girl, was dating one of our boys there at church, and they got married. When she first started coming, she went to a church that didn't appreciate Church of Christ. We had that reputation among them. Of course, they were the same way. If you're not us, you're not anybody kind of thing. And they believe what we've been accused of for years. If you're not us, you're not right kind of thing. But anyway, so she was very, very suspicious of the church when she came. But after she got married, and after they were dating for a while, the walls started breaking down. She found out that we weren't the monsters that she was told that we were. I'll tell you, they were so bad that the boy that was dating the girl, uh, he went to church with her one time, and the preacher called him down by name from the pulpit. At least I hadn't done that. Paul, he was hot. But anyway, she started coming with him, and the wall started breaking down, and Sally invites her to go to class with her. Now, Sally, the mother, she's now the mother-in-law, by the way, she started inviting her to come to class with her. Why don't you help me in my class? Now, this is a girl that, again, was very anti-Church of Christ. Come to find out, she said, Sally taught the little kids' Bible class. Well, she told me, she said, you know what, I'm learning more Bible than I've ever learned before. We assume, because our kids, we're so fortunate as parents that our kids are, we have the Kid Street Live, and we have the Bible teachers that we have in our classes, and they hear the stories of the Bible. She said, when I was growing up, I never heard any of these Bible stories. They were doing some Old Testament stories. I never heard those before. I didn't know about those. She didn't know about, Samson and Delilah. She didn't know about, David and Goliath. She didn't know any of these stories, even though she'd gone to church all her life. Well, guess what? She's a member of the church. They've got 3 kids. They're married. Everything's good. Why? Because, they said, why don't you just not come to church with me? Why don't you serve alongside me? You see what I'm saying? That was discipling. With friends and family, bring them with you as you try to live out your faith. Invite them to church. Next Sunday's a great opportunity. I hope there's none of these cars left when you leave today, because you got 1 week to get them out to people. Invite them to Mother's Day services. You don't get any better than our Mother's Day service. We're gonna talk about how good you moms are. We're gonna feed you breakfast. We're going to have a little gift for you. We're gonna have all these different things we're gonna be doing. Women don't have to do a thing next Sunday. You just come, use that power that you have. I sure wish you'd come go to church with me. Use it for your family. Bring them with you. Invite them to help with service projects or coach a kid's soccer team or whatever it is. My guess is that none of this is surprising that I'm saying. My guess is, if you've been here long enough, you've heard me say this before. Still, several studies have shown that the average churchgoer in North America, this is a study that they've done, the average churchgoer in North America brings an average, now listen to this, of 0 lost people with them to church in a given year. The number was so low that they had to round it down rather than up. That's how low the percentage of people who bring unsaved people to church with them in North America today. That's sad. I think the reason why we normally don't bring someone with us is the same reasons Jesus could have used for Peter. It's just easier just to do it my own way. It's just to do it myself, do it on my own. You never know what's going to come out of loudmouth Peter's mouth. He's going to embarrass me. I just don't think they could handle it. Just a minute before, Peter totally had blown it. So why do you think he's going to do better the next time I invite him, Jesus could say? Really, there's just 2 possible outcomes if you bring someone with you. Number 1, your assessment of them might be wrong. You invite someone to come with you on a mission, and you think that they can't handle it, but actually there was way more in them than you thought. And they come and they become a Christian, and they serve God and do great things for God. Or it could be that you're right. But God is going to use their failure to grow them. Anybody here ever grown through failures in your life? Actually, most of us, that's when we grow the most, is when we mess up. We learn from our mistakes so many times. Your job is not, by the way, parents, your job is not to protect your kids from ever failing. Your job is to raise them up to trust in God. You parents who spend your time trying to keep your kids from failing all the time, sometimes you need to let them mess up. Let them make a decision that's the wrong decision, so they can learn from those decisions. I don't mean put them at risk. I don't mean put them in danger. But you can't fix everything for your kids. And then when they make the mistake, try not to go, well, now, okay, now how's that working for you? But let them learn. So what happened with Peter? I think he got it. Jesus can raise the dead. Even death is not an insurmountable barrier if you believe in Jesus. What if Jesus didn't bring him, though? What if Jesus had left Peter out? Then Peter wouldn't have learned a lesson, and this future scene probably wouldn't happen. Listen to this. Acts chapter 9, 36 to 42. In Joppa, there was a disciple named Tabitha. In Greek, her name was Dorcas. She was always doing good and helping the poor. About that time, she became sick and died, and her body was washed and placed in an upstairs room. Lydia was near Joppa. So when the disciples heard that Peter was in Lydda, they sent 2 men to him to urge him, please come at once. Peter went with them, and when he arrived, he was taken to the upstairs to the room. All the widows around were crying and showing him the robes and other clothing that Dorcas had made while she was still with them. Peter sent them all out of the room. Then he got down on his knees and he prayed. Turning towards the dead woman, he said, Tabitha, get up. She opened her eyes, and seeing Peter, she sat up. He took her by the hand and helped her to her feet. Then he called all the believers, especially the widows, and presented her to them alive. This became known all over Joppa, and many people believed on the Lord. Peter healed Tabitha in an eerily similar way that Jesus had healed Jairus' daughter. Many people come to believe in Jesus all throughout Joppa simply because Jesus took Peter with him years earlier. And he saw how he did it. God is into connecting the dots. He's that kind of God. We have no idea what God wants to do with us when he wants to do those things with us. God's calling on your life is bigger than your lifetime. There's only one thing that will last. The stuff you are stressing about today won't. One thing will. That's the effect you have on other people in this life for Jesus. It'll probably be no big deal in a couple of years, and your own great-grandchildren won't even know you existed 20, 30, 40 years from now, if it's like most people in the world. They won't ever know your name. But if you bring someone with you, that'll be celebrated throughout eternity. What is God calling you to? You young people that I've got pass out those things, start passing them out. Go ahead, all 4 of you. Who can you bring with you? Who in your life doesn't know God, but as you speak to pursue after God yourself, who are you going to invite to pursue after him with you? They may laugh. You know what? If they do, you'll be in good company because they laughed at Jesus. I want to introduce to you a phrase that is a perfect response for what we've been talking about for the last 6 weeks. Will you put your yes on the table? Will you put your yes on the table? When it comes to God, will your answer be yes before you even know what the question is? Will your answer be yes when it comes to God? God, I don't know where, how, why, who, or when. My yes is on the table. As we sing the closing hymn today, the invitation song, I want you to take your card and I want you to place it on this table this morning. If you have a desire on your heart, fill it out. Place it on this table. There's one here and there's 2 in the back. Tell God clearly that what you're all in when it comes to the life of the mission that God has called you to. That you are going to be a true disciple of Jesus. That you're going to disciple others. You're going to go out and disciple others, and the people that you disciple, you're going to bring with you. Can you put your yes on the table this morning? As we sing this song, they'll sing some extra verses if we need to. Put your yes on the table as we stand and we offer the invitation.